Welcome to Zcash Community Call to meet the community nominees for the Zcash Foundation Board. My name is Jack Gavigan. I'm the Executive Director of the Zcash Foundation. The Zcash Foundation is governed by a 6-person board of directors, consisting of 5 independent directors and myself, the Executive Director. While the board is self-electing, every time a slot comes up on the board, we invite nominations from the community for people who the community think should help govern the Zcash Foundation. And then we submit those candidates to an advisory poll of Zcap in order to find out what the community thinks. This year, we very sadly are saying goodbye to Amber Baldet and Peter van Valkenburg, who have served with distinction on the board and proved to be of great use in terms of advising myself and helping guide the foundation through some rocky periods. In fact, Peter has been with the foundation since day one. He wrote some of the application that was submitted to the IRS to get the nonprofit status. And Amber also has been involved with Zcash for quite some time, dating back to her time at JP Morgan, when she brought in the Electric Coin Company to help add some zero-knowledge proof style privacy to JP Morgan's blockchain protocol. Now, the purpose of this call is to meet the candidates who are standing for the board. Just a reminder that this call is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube afterwards, so that other members of the community can watch it at their leisure. So let's start off with the first candidate. Let's call on Taylor Hornby, aka Earthrise on the forums. And Taylor, if you could just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll move on to the other candidates.
Sounds good. So, hey, I'm Taylor. So I first got involved with Zcash when I started working for Least Authority, which was Zuko's security company that sort of spawned off the Electric Coin Company. I spent about a year working on Zcash before the blockchain launched. I went off to go to grad school, and then I came back and worked as a security engineer for a few years. And then left ECC, started a grant to focus on ecosystem security, and that's still going on. Least Authority has now taken that over. And I've been fun employed for the last year or so, and I'm excited to get back into the Zcash community. So I think I have a good overview of the technical parts of Zcash from my work as a security engineer. I've been pretty active on the forum, proposing ideas and just getting a sense for what's going on. Yeah, that's me.
Thank you. Let's hear next from Ted Hoffman, also known as Boggerster on the forum.
Thank you very much. Maybe I need to change my name on the forum. I'm not so sure about that. I'm Ted. I'm 29. I'm originally from Luxembourg, but moved to Lisbon. I mean, first contact in crypto in general was I think it was 2014. And of course, it was thanks to a meme coin. It was Dogecoin. Very lucky. I had the choice between either an Xbox game or Dogecoin. I chose Dogecoin. It was a good decision. But I got kind of serious about it maybe 2016. I saw the launch of Zcash, and I was live there when the news dropped with JP Morgan, and there was a good headliner. But I was very, very excited. And every time I introduce new friends of mine to crypto in general, I always preface it. Zcash, it might be ungrateful as an investment up until now, but I very much believe in its technological future. It will get adopted. It has its place. I just love the value proposition in general, and I've been following it ever since. There are sometimes I get more involved, less involved. I try to be a little bit involved in the forum, not too much of noise. Personally, before Zcash or outside of Zcash, I've had the fortune and the misfortune in trying a few company ventures, specifically in Luxembourg, all relating to consultancy service or an investment fund. It was horrible, but it was a very nice learning experience I would not change it for anything. I've made the tours with banks, with compliance officers. I've heard them talk the worst about crypto, but then tell me the next sentence that they own Ripple. And it was very frustrating, but it was very, very insightful. I've even got a meeting at the governor of the Luxembourgish Central Bank, thanks to a misunderstanding. He just couldn't figure out why we, as a crypto fund, is not able to get a transfer account with any bank. And then we got into his office and we had a lengthy discussion of what is money. It was a tumultuous one. It was quite up and down, the discussion, but I mean, what are you going to do about it? The central banker, you're talking to the system itself. But it was quite insightful. I think maybe that's a perspective, the combination of the wider ecosystem and my personal very high interest in Zcash itself, just the protocol, the future, privacy, everything about it, plus the added perspective I might add with my past, let's say, misfortunate company trials. But regardless, I think that maybe a perspective that might be useful for the foundation at some point.
Thank you, and good to meet you. And finally, let's hear from, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this correctly, Taranji Terrell, also known as Loo88 on the forum.
Hello, everyone. My name is Taranji Terrell. I got introduced to Zcash back in 2020. It was actually the second crypto that I bought. I'm more so like a freelance crypto guy. Zcash is like the first blockchain to really involve me within the ecosystem. So that's why I've been here, and and I'm a strong believer in everything that Zcash stands for: the privacy, human rights, everything. I'm mostly like Cosmos around it, so I'm really into Cosmos. I want to see like Zcash get implemented more so over there. I got a lot of ideas and plans that we can do over there. I'm 33. I'm an undergrad at CTU, learning computer science. I think this will help me with my evolution into the crypto space and learning about computer science and how everything works. Elaborating with people, the board members, the community. I think that make me a very well-rounded individual within this space, and I can contribute a lot to it. More like teaching me as I go. That's really about it. I haven't done anything like super technical like the other two, like Taylor and Ted. So I can't go deep into a lot of stuff like they can. But that's really about it with me, as far as introducing myself. I hope I'm not, I'm quite sure I can say some more stuff, but I don't want to ramble on about it.
Well,
Yeah.
we're gonna have a bunch of questions from the community, so you'll have an opportunity
Okay.
to explain a bit more about yourself when you're answering those questions. Well, again, thank you for joining us, and great
Yes,
to
Dodge.
meet you. So
Pleasure.
I'm gonna bring up some of the questions. These are questions that have been submitted by the community, and we'll kick it off with a couple of questions from Paku. What are the things that you believe the Zcash Foundation has succeeded at, and what are the aspects you consider improvement opportunities? What is the most important thing that the Zcash Foundation is doing and should stop doing? What is the most important thing that the Zcash Foundation is not doing and should start doing? And we'll start off again with Taylor.
Cool. So yeah, what are the things I believe Zcash has succeeded at? Number one amazing thing that ZF has done is build Zebra. In case you're unfamiliar, there's two different node implementations. One is forked off of Bitcoin, and one is a complete re-implementation that ZF has been working on over the past many years. And that's finally getting to a point where it's actually going to be good enough to use as the main node. And we can get rid of the old node, which is like, I think Sean Bowe called it a C++ hellscape, which is an accurate description. Just getting everything over to Zebra is just going to speed up development, make things a lot better. So I'm super happy about that. What's the most important thing that ZF is doing and should stop doing? So I think another thing that ZF has done that's been really important is sort of steward the ZCG and just sort of support the grant body and all of that stuff. And I think ZCG would benefit from being more independent. So if there's something I would say that ZF to stop doing, it would be to sort of let ZCG become its own independent entity. What's the most important thing that ZF is not doing and should start doing? That's a really hard question because I could probably think of like 10 different things that ZF should start doing, but funds are limited. So I think the most important thing is to be really careful with spending and making sure that what we do invest in is going to have a large impact in terms of Zcash adoption. So if I'm sort of in my role as a board member, I would be looking at that, like, what do we really need to do this? What are the expected consequences of doing this? What results do we expect to see? And are we holding ourselves accountable for actually delivering on those kinds of results? And yeah.
Cool. Well, at least one of those things is becoming partially true. The Zcash Community Grants Committee is moving over to the Financial Privacy Foundation. So I'm becoming a little, at least separate from the Zcash Foundation, if not entirely independent. Ted, let's hear from you next.
So Taylor already mentioned Zebra, Frost. I think in general, I think what Zcash Foundation has been doing very well is just planting the seeds. You know, the tree is going to take a long time to grow. There's still no Zebra implementation. I think it's just a massive headache to transition. It's like the comparison of repairing the plane while it's flying. But I think it's important to have at least an entity that's looking so far into the future. Maybe when things get released, people wonder, you know, what's the tangible use case? But the fruits will come, they will be born, and I think that's a very, I wouldn't say noble, but there's no other term that comes to my mind right now. But I think it's important. It's important work. It's not looking for instant gratification. Consider improvement. Maybe communicating. I think that's maybe an improvement that could be done. Communicating about Frost and Zebra. I know it has been tried on the forums, maybe in a more digestible way, maybe in more layman's terms, especially for Frost. I feel like there's a lot of confusion of what is Frost actually enabling. Multi-sig is an easy one, but just, yeah, maybe slightly better communication when it comes to that. And also, I think it needs to change anyway with the new funding mechanism. Communication becomes increasingly important. So I think that's something the foundation has, it has to figure out, and it will get better over time. When it comes to what is the most important thing that Zcash Foundation is doing and should stop doing, honestly, I don't know. What is something that it could do better? Be more present. I went to Bangkok last week, and there was a very big privacy conference happening. I've seen Michelle from the ECC board, but other than that, I would have loved to see more foundation presence. Maybe I've missed them, but even just when it comes to like a small donation of 10K, put us on the banner, put Zcash in there, gain more mindshare. It's a room full of people that have the same niche, see the same importance, go there in their free time. That's a breeding ground that Zcash needs. And I think it's a very low-hanging fruit, just build it out there. And it's something that will happen. Board member, yes or no? I will be there, and I am trying to represent either the foundation board, the Zcash user, or whatever. But I think just gaining more mindshare by being more present in those events, I think that's something that could be improved upon. And also, side note, closure remark, I like ZCon. I went to ZCon in Vegas. I think that's also a great success. I think those gatherings, they are important, and I like them very much. Just spread around, cross-pollinate a little bit more, and I think that's fine.
Cool. Taranjai, let's hear from you.
Dodger, you did good on it. Most people don't get it right on the second try.
I listen. That's what we
Yes.
do at the foundation. We listen.
Yes. I think Zcat, I think the foundation has succeeded at bringing the community together, um, luncheon, Frost, and Zebra. Bringing I the form, like the biweekly arbitrage calls, the whole structure of the foundation has been like a success. Aspects that I consider improvement opportunities on the polls. I noticed people want more of a voice on the polls. So I think we should create the polls where the answers can be elaborated on and they can express how they feel more, so they can have more of a voice on the polls. What's the most important thing that ZF is doing? Um, I think I just answered that one. What ZF should stop doing, if stop doing. That's kind of hard to say because I don't want to say something that they shouldn't stop doing. I think I nailed it with the polls. I think that's something that they should fix, as far as what they should stop doing. But the innovation, community, is all there.
Cool. Good to hear. Okay, let's move on to the next question. And this is from Sean, aka Mine Zcash, who administrates the forums. What experience do you have that would qualify you to help run a nonprofit organization? And just to elaborate here a little bit on this, the role of the ZF board, its principal kind of function is to hire and fire me. Is to decide who runs the foundation and work with them to set strategy, make sure they're doing their job properly, supervise them, make sure that they're acting appropriately and professionally and all the rest. And if they're not up to the mark, to bring that up with them. So yeah, let's start off this time with Ted.
Maybe not directly non-profit, but I tried 2 for-profit companies. I've made my round around balance sheets and what is a priority and what shouldn't. To my demise, may I say, thanks to outside factors. But yeah, maybe just having hands-on experience for 2 for-profits. And I was part of a non-profit once. Didn't take very long. We opened it. We had big plans, and nothing ever happened. But that's just life. So this, and maybe just my corporate perspective, that my ventures allowed me together. I have maybe a unique perspective on that, but slight touch input. That's probably all of it.
Let's hear from Taranjai next this time.
What experience do I have to qualify to run a nonprofit? I'm an entrepreneur. I understand business. I I can hold a conversation and I can come to agreements on topics and situations. Conflict resolution, I understand business and how stuff need to be run. And yeah, that's about it. I just understand business, organizations, and how they should be run.
Okay. Taylor.
Yeah, so sort of like Ted, I've seen a lot of for-profit businesses fail, and I think that's like super valuable experience. Because like failure is pretty much the only way you can really learn. Thankfully, they weren't my own businesses. I just experienced it vicariously through friends. So I don't have to suffer the pain of that directly. But to be completely transparent here, I am not familiar with the United States tax code. I need to learn about 501c3 corporations. So I do have a to-do list of stuff that I need to learn to be effective in my role um, as a board member. But I think what experience I bring to the table here is more to do with a really broad overview of the Zcash ecosystem. Having worked as a security auditor, I've dug into pretty much every community project there is at some point or another. Um, and I think what I bring to the table is sort of a trust in everyone to be um, doing the best they can for Zcash, and I sort of hope to be able to build bridges between people. Um, and yeah, that's my answer.
Okay. But next up, we have a question from Dismad. What is your favorite pastime outside the crypto industry? And he'd also like each candidate to talk about their Zcash time machine for 2025 and beyond. And let's start off with Taranjai this time.
Okay, I like to pass time outside the crypto industry, playing games and listening to music. Um, my time machine for 2025. I hope we go to the moon, at least halfway there. Yeah, that's it for
Okay,
me.
Ted, let's hear from you next.
Ah, there we go. Outside of crypto, I travel constantly. I like it. Can be exhausting, but I like it. Otherwise, I'm into sports, basketball, paddle. Um, when I'm motivated, I read. I have a I mean, I don't feel like maybe oversharing in my private book list, but I really like the Crypto by Stephen Levi and Permanent Record. Those are two crypto-related books that I've read recently. Really like them. I think I didn't read the last 20 pages of Permanent Record, but highly recommend it. There we go. It's a very, very nice book. I love it. The ending, I have an anthem for the ending. But yeah, read when I can. I have two more books on my list, but the Experience Machine, but that's it about. But yeah, sports, reading, um, some dokus, and traveling mainly outside of crypto.
And Taylor.
Yeah, so I have too many pastimes it makes it hard to pick one. I would say my favorite is electronic music production. Um, yeah, I haven't been doing that as much as I want to, but if you want to look up some of my music, you can search Pixel Cloud Palace on Spotify. Zcash Time Machine. So yeah, 2025 is pretty soon. So maybe this is more 2027, 2028 kind of timeline. But I sort of imagine a world where the sort of funding mechanism has been worked out. All community organizations are sort of um, being well funded at the same time as showing great results in terms of adoption and things like that. And what I'd really like to see is for the Zcash community to attract more developers. by way of making Zcash libraries, Zcash documentation super usable, so that Zcash is as easy to use as PayPal or something like that. That's going to take a lot of work. It might take another decade to get there. It might take 5 years, might be sooner. Hard to say, but that's what I'd like to see.
Thank you. And Ted, I think you missed out on the your time machine vision for Zcash.
Exactly. I'm so sorry. My time machine is not working, and it goes to 2035, and by then there will be governments issuing and using stuff on Zcash, and I think it's in their best interest also, and then also the privacy fanatics. Just like Tor, if only spies are using the Tor network, it's useless. You have to proliferate it into a wider crowd. The user set has to be diverse. And yeah, it might not be 2025, but I'm okay. If it happens in 2035, we may or may not know what government is not using or using Zcash. But I'm very positive about it.
Okay, next question is from Tiago Laureato. What's your stance on the Zcash trademark eternal debate? And let's start off with Taylor on this one.
Yeah, so I think it's ultimately up to the Zcash community. And as far as I can tell, the Zcash community has expressed an interest in not using the trademark for governance related things. But I do think that it's really important to stop scams and malicious wallet apps that steal your funds. Um, for example, anyone should be able to search Zcash wallet in the Apple App Store or the Google one and be relatively assured that what they're getting is not going to take all of their money. And so personally, I would want to limit trademark use to taking down malicious apps and other scam-like things.
Okay, Taranjai?
My stance on the trademark internal debate. I think the only problem I seen was like the fraudulent activities. 'Cause I think that's the community most major concern. Like they don't want somebody going out here and using the trademark and scamming people. So I feel like we should create some type of, I guess, a community to where anybody who wanna use the trademark, they should be like registered where we'll know, like it's like a verification in a way. Where we'll know these people are legit. Yeah. That's
Okay.
it for now.
And Ted?
I honestly, I did not have a strong opinion on the trademark. It's just a topic that keeps reappearing every few months or so. If it has to be a binary outcome, put a gun to my head and ask me, do you want to keep it as is or abolish? I would say abolish if there is a spectrum in between, like Taylor's proposal to limit the trademark use for banning malicious wallets from the App Store. I think that's a sensible thing to do. If there is a spectrum, I'm about to, I mean, not when I, but I still have to make a decision on that. I don't have a strong opinion just now, but binary outcome, abolish, spectrum, probably something closer to what Taylor said.
Right, next up is a question from Pitmut. In your opinion, what can the Zcash Foundation do to encourage adoption of Zcash? And let's hear from Taranjai first on this.
To encourage adoption of Zcash, advertisement. I want to see some billboards like in Atlanta, Miami, New York, LA. I want to see like a buy Zeke, privacy, normal. I want to see the billboard. Like I want to see the Zcash Foundation logo in the corner of a billboard. Zeshi, download this app. I want to see that a Q code where they can just hold it up and they can download it right there in traffic. That's what I want to see.
Okay, Taylor.
Yeah, so sort of bigger picture, I sort of see Zcash as entering its like usability arc right now, like with ECC putting out the Zashi wallet, solving a lot of Zcash's usability problems for like end users of a wallet. I think that leaves open an opportunity to ZF for ZF to focus on developers and like really think about like what kinds of people want to build on Zcash? What do they want to build? What roadblocks do they run into when they try to do that? And what sort of like libraries or documentation could be funded to make that easier and sort of like attract like entrepreneurial developers who are gonna make products on top of Zcash that then they go out and um, attract users of their own, which end up becoming Zcash users because they're building on Zcash. Um, so yeah, that's something I'm thinking about a little bit.
And Ted?
The first one about your question, I didn't see the involvement of Zcash specifically because I think if there's going to be more encroachment into privacy by governments, I think there will be a natural tendency for people looking for solutions. This will increase adoption. Naturally, what tangible things Zcash can do is, I mentioned it before, but just be more present on events. And I think being present more in those patient zero kind of environments, it will spread out naturally. If you introduce not only developers, but maybe a developer that also has a already existing user base around it, or as in maybe already working on a product and they implement something of Zcash or are aware about Zcash, implement maybe some few tech stacks left and right. I think this will help greatly with visibility, and then from there on it will spread out. But from the development center out to users, I think this would be, just like Taylor said, the Zcash Foundation's edge. All considering that the ECC is taking care of the immediate user experience with the Zashi wallet.
You touched on something there, governments encroaching upon privacy. And this is a topic that's come up recently, this question of to what extent should Zcash adapt to the sort of regulatory pressures that it faces versus sticking to its principles, even if that means that it gets delisted and therefore makes it far more difficult for people to adopt it. What are your thoughts on that, Ted?
And maybe touch on that. I think I might have a controversial opinion on that, but there are enough three-letter agency people in every government that are very fond of privacy. They would love nothing more than to have a perfectly private option, be it for a Pentagon slush fund or anything else. I think they would be very happy about that. For everybody in governments putting maybe negative pressures, regulators, I think very often it stems from misunderstanding where their salaries come from or where the money printer actually, how it works. I think just people are much more willing to maybe adapt their vision and go beyond just their mandate as the regulator who says no. Education is, I think, a part of it. When we say how much does Zcash need to adapt, it's a difficult question. I was there when we had the discussion with about the Binance delisting. Should we have the super transparent addresses? I think it was a contentious one. I get it. It will be much less effective to gain new users if Zcash becomes only available on, let's say, Bisq, a client that people need to download and then be super unfriendly to use, and then maybe bridge with a horrible experience into Zcash. It might be the best product. If it's not available to anyone, it's an iffy one. We can play ball with the government as long as we can, let's say, extend the minimum viability when it comes to compliance, as in super transparent addresses. But at some point, we need to reach critical mass before we need to drastically change something, as in government mandated drilling keys, something Zcash would just never do because it just defeats completely the purpose of Zcash as privacy. But just move faster, be as little compliant as possibly necessary, but find kind of like a Goldilocks zone of just shoot them away for another 6 months. and then another 6 months, and then be too big to actually ignore.
Dharanjay, do you have any thoughts on the thought of, sort of principles versus adapting to the realities?
You say the principles? Um, I think I think educational will be like the most important thing, because when it comes to advertisement, they need to have awareness of Zcash as well to make them want to like download the app or buy the token. Because you can build all of this stuff, but if nobody don't understand or aware of it, it'll be like useless in a way. And it'll just be a drag like now. So
Okay. And Taylor, what are your thoughts on this sort of tension that exists where do we adapt to regulations, and without whilst drawing a line, or do we need to stick to our principles?
Yeah, so that's a tough question, and it will depend. The answer will depend on what we find ourselves up against. But one thing I do take a very hard line stance on is never ever backdooring the cryptography, basically. Um, we should not ever do anything that would put users at risk by putting out a product that we claim is secure when it's actually not, because we need to comply with some kind of regulation or something like that. So that's my hardline stance. That's never going to change, and I think pretty much everyone in the Zcash community would agree with that. Um, on the other side of the coin, like privacy is really important. You need financial privacy to be free, and I think like people value freedom, and I think we can make a good case that something like Zcash is a good thing for the world, and it's not just going to be used by malicious people. It's going to be used to let people be free and express themselves and live happier lives. And so I think the battle should be fought making that argument and saying this is actually something good, and it's not something that should be shut down, because um, we'd be losing something valuable if we did that.
Okay. Well, our final question from the community is again from Sean. With the end of the dev fund, what ideas do you have for how the Zcash Foundation will sustain itself in the future? So to give that some context, at the foundation we've been conservative in terms of our spending, and that means that we do have a few years runway left at our current run rate. But obviously there is no magic money tree, and the question arises: how do we pay salaries? How do we keep engineers, working for us, and doing, building things like and maintaining things like Zebra if there is no dev fund going forward? So you're really interested in hearing ideas on that. Let's start off with Ted.
I think I mentioned it already in the first question, but regarding just good communication to get part of the lockbox funds, I think this is something that will happen and needs to be done, at least to stop the bleeding, not go too much into the savings. I think that's pretty natural. As to very sustainably as a foundation, I think very, very long term, if we assume not everything is just going to magically go up in number and pump forever, and we'll just indefinitely fund our expenses by pumping harder than we pay. Donations. I think relying on community donations plus the lockbox mechanism, I think it will be the most important way to stop and counteract the bleeding of funds. Of course, in addition to just be careful not to overspend, but that's natural, first principle.
Okay, and Taylor.
Yeah, so I think I think we need to sort of face the reality that we don't have an infinite stream of money that we can just draw on forever. At some point, the work to develop Zcash needs to be paid for by someone, and currently that's being paid for by coin holders who invest in the coin. Some coins get sold and to fund development and things like that. And that's great as a model for like starting off and launching the project. But at some point, it needs to be sort of like capturing the value of the stuff we're producing. And so I think in the long term, we eventually need to be funded from something like transaction fees or something like that, where the more Zcash is used, the more funding there is to support it. And there's sort of like a virtuous cycle of like more funding creates better product, which gets more users, which gets more funding, and Zcash can grow that way. Um, so I think in summer we have to face the reality that at some point we need to move over to that model, and the sort of like the dev fund type model is it can work, but only so far. And eventually we gotta get a lot of users. That's the main thing.
And Taranja.
My idea on the dev fund, Taylor said a lot of key stuff. We need to find a way to, instead of just burning Zcash, we need to find a way to use that Zcash to bring more revenue. Like, I don't want to say put the funds in the derivative and use that to pay the developers, but that would be more of a more sustainable in the long term than just paying them in Zcash and letting them spend the Zcash at will, because it's gonna kill the price. So we need to find some type of way to use that money. Like if you have $10 million, we need to figure out a way to make that money grow, because they're gonna take time to build product. So within, if it's 6 months, if you have 9.5 million in the fund, within 6 months, it should be at least 12 million, and not whatever you just had to pay out within that 6 months time frame. I can go more in depth, but I don't want to take up all the time because it's very complex. This is a complex topic right here.
Yeah, certainly it's a tricky one of how do we build momentum in the Zcash ecosystem to the point where, like for example, the Ethereum ecosystem is generating enough kind of economic activity within the ecosystem that there are people who are incentivized, therefore, to ensure that things like software maintenance happens, that upgrades take place, and that those essential functions still get performed. We do risk, I think, in the longer term, a bit of a tragedy of the commons, where people come in, do high-profile projects, then leave again, and the long-term maintenance of the project is kind of left for somebody else to take care of. Well, we're getting close to time, but I wanted to ask you all a question, and we'll start off with Taranja this time. We kind of face a real evolution of Zcash in the coming years. We're looking at the deployment of ZSAs coming up next year. We're looking at potentially moving towards proof of stake, and there are other plans around research going on into scalability and so on. What do you think how do you think the Zcash Foundation can best focus on? If you had to prioritize one thing that would help move Zcash forward, what would that be? And obviously, as part B of that question, nobody stays in a job forever, and sooner or later, either the board will will decide to dispense with my services, or I'll decide to step back and spend more time with my little boy. And as the board is responsible for deciding who should run the foundation, who would your perfect executive director of the Zcash Foundation be?
Oh, the second part is hard. But my main focus proof of stake, because proof of stake will help sustain the Dell fund, the proof of stake model. And then far as with promoting and bringing new users in, because it's a lot of people that's into computer science technology that's not running nodes because they're not aware of this technology and stuff. So once you bring those people in, we will have enough people to run nodes for proof of stake. And far as the second part of that question, I would say Zuko, but I think he already I don't think he can run. But I say, that's a tough question.
You can pick anybody. You can pick Elon Musk if you want.
I think Paku will be a good candidate.
Cool. Taylor, let's hear from you.
Yeah, so if I can pick fictional people, I'd pick Captain Picard, obviously. But more seriously, I think I don't really have a particular person in mind, but I can talk about I think the role needs someone with a lot of integrity. It's a very difficult job, sort of being in the public eye of Zcash, a lot of like pressure from regulatory stuff and three-letter agencies and things like that. So I think like integrity is super important. Someone who values privacy and genuinely believes that privacy is important for freedom. Yeah, so it'd be really hard to find a replacement for you, Dodger. But that's kind of what I'd look for. And the first question, I forgot the question, but it was something about what can ZF do?
What should ZF be prioritizing? What should its top priority be?
Yeah, so I already mentioned deprecating Zcash and moving over to Zebra. That's definitely a top priority. But thinking about what's not already on the roadmap, I think if I could only pick one thing, it would be sort of community outreach to developers to sort of see what interest there is in terms of like building stuff on top of Zcash and like who with ZSAs coming in, like who wants to build a ZSA and what roadblocks are they running into when they try to do that, and how do we make that a lot easier?
Okay. And Ted.
When I imagine an upgrade, a product that ZFA is coming out with as, let's say, Zebra or Frost, something in that sort, maybe blockchain succinctness. Everybody has a full node on the phone. That's something I like. Make it easily verifiable. Just verify on your phone, easy. That's your latest state. Might be in the scope. I've heard rumors for a few years already. I would love to see it. For the perfect executive, well, Dodger, you are out, and Justin Drake is in. But I think Justin Drake would be a good one. I liked his speech about the beam chain. He seems very, yeah, a lot of integrity. But I like him.
Yeah, and that's actually an interesting point. Other projects, other blockchains, other cryptocurrencies are adding or are launching with the same type of privacy, ZK based privacy that Zcash has. How do you think Zcash can stay relevant? How do you for quite a long time, and possibly still, many people viewed Zcash as the creme de la creme when it came to privacy and when it came to ZK ZK proofs implementation. I think there's a question mark now over when you got new projects coming in, when you got projects like Ethereum adding zero and ZK snarks at their layer one. I think there's a big question as to how can Zcash stay relevant? How can it keep that kind of top spot? Or do we risk, do we face being yesterday's news in a few years?
If I can maybe quickly respond directly to that, thing was Zuko was tweeting yesterday or today that something Monero scammers got found out by the Japanese authorities. So I think at least regarding consumer grade privacy coins, we still have a very good lead. More and more project. That's true. That's true. Make the shielded pool tremendously large. Make it very, very large. And I think part of it would be actually I like Taylor's response about putting part of the transaction fees, giving it back to Zcash Foundation. Well, take part of the transaction fees and put it into the shielded pool, make it claimable, time-based, whatever, something like that. I think incentivize the shielded pool. That's something that might be necessary, but I think it would be very unique dynamic to have a huge shielded pool, keep the money in the shielded pool, make it circular. There's no doubt that there is tremendous privacy if 200,000 users are consistently broadcasting shielded transactions. That'd be very, very nice. Yeah, many are coming, very few are actually doing something. We've seen Aztec shift from being a rollup that's posting privately or have the source private and then post something on Compound or Aave to be in the shadows again. I saw their, I think, product lead. I think she was called Claire. Very bright. So they have at least someone who's really thinking about how do we find product market fit and how do we go to market as Aztec, the layer 2 for ETH. But I think not all hope is lost for Zcash just yet. Make me verify the blockchain on the phone and make the shielded pool tremendously large. Easy user experience. If I want to send money to the Philippines, Iran, China, anywhere, they would probably ask me for USDT on Tron. I want to see USDT on Zcash. I think that would be incredibly nice. Let me send them money on Zcash instead of on Tron. I think that'd be very nice.
Cool. Saranjay, how do you think Zcash can stay relevant when more projects are adding privacy at the base layer?
Zcash staying relevant. Honestly, I think the technology that Zcash has implemented and created for the world, I think you can't get rid of Zcash. All we can do is just bring more exposure to Zcash and build our community up. And like Ted said, make the shielded pool big as possible. Because you can't really get rid of zero knowledge. You can't. So it's gonna be here. As long as we keep the community strong, it won't go nowhere. Because Monero, they really like they're hot in a way. So people gonna I think a lot of that money from Monroe can come here to Zcash. I think that's what will happen in the near future, especially if the law come down on them. People who can get their funds out of there, they're gonna swap into Zcash. Cause where else would they go? Cause yeah, you have secret and other privacy tokens, but the technology isn't like Zcash. It's not fully private.
Okay. And Taylor.
Yeah, so I'm super happy to see other projects building in privacy, because I don't think privacy is a product. I think privacy is a feature that any money transmitting system should have. So um, I'm I'm super worried about transparent blockchains. Like if Bitcoin takes over the world and everyone can see everyone else's transactions, that's like super bad. So I don't want that outcome. So I'm really happy to see a lot of projects building in privacy. But that does mean there is an actual risk of Zcash sort of fading into irrelevancy. Um, it might be the case that we built this great technology and it just gets copied by other projects, and those other projects go on to um, sort of outcompete Zcash and find success, and we don't. And I think we should be honest about that being a possibility and start a conversation about like what is Zcash? How do we outcompete? Basically, we can no longer really rely on the fact that we have the greatest engineers and the best math. We really need to think about Zcash as a product, and if it's gonna succeed in the market, then we have to think about like what do we need to change to be able to do that. So that's sort of how I see it on the product side of Zcash, but as um, well, there's another side of Zcash, which is basically the community. And that's this like group of people who all believe in Zcash and believe in privacy and um, sort of support Zcash. And that I think is a little harder to kill. I don't see that community really fading into irrelevancy. Um, so that might be something to draw on as we're thinking about like how do we outcompete these other projects that are sort of doing something different, but also adding privacy.
Cool. Well, we're nearly at time, but I want to give everybody just 1 minute to say whatever final words they'd like to share with the community. And let's start it off with Ted.
I'm not sure. I think most of it has been said. My forum post was pretty lengthy. I will not expand furthermore on that. Maybe if Zuko could unblock me on Twitter, if I were to get elected, that would be very nice. I would really appreciate. But other than that, I think that's it for me.
Taranjai.
Um, um, I'm a strong believer in privacy. Um, if I'm elected, um, I'm gonna make sure that the community voice is heard, um, and try to work with everyone the best of my ability and be fair and make sure things get done and improve. Like I want the community, like I go on the forum, I want to see everyone happy. If someone have a problem, I want that issue to get resolved. Well, when people come on the forum in the future, they can see these problems getting resolved and handled. And it's not like madness or it's been a year and we still talking about the same thing. So that's my one of my main focuses. And I want to help bridge Cosmos to Zcash because I really want a Zcash fund on Dada. I think that'll help us as well. Okay.
Okay. And finally, Taylor.
Yeah, so I think the questions gave a pretty good sense of the my sort of views on Zcash related issues and what I'd stand for. Yeah, I'm basically in if I get elected to the board, um, I'm basically going to focus on the hard questions of like, how do we get Zcash adoption? Um, and really staring those problems in the face and trying to tackle them head on. Um, and just hopefully using my sort of like broad overview knowledge of the community and tech stack to help out however I can.
Cool. Well, let's wrap it up there. In terms of the next steps, we will, in the next few days, open up a poll of ZCAP, the Zcash Community Advisory Panel. There'll be an advisory poll. but the Zcash Foundation Board will meet with the top 2 ranked candidates from that poll, and ultimately take that feedback from the community into consideration when they're deciding who to appoint to these 2 seats on the board. But for now, I'd like to thank all of you for standing, for putting yourselves forward to serve the Zcash community. It's a really important role. The Zcash Foundation is the only entity within the community that actually takes community input when appointing people to its governance board. So it's a really important role. And yeah, so thank you for putting yourselves forward. Thank you for joining us this evening, and good luck in the Zcash poll.
All right, thank
With
you,
that,
Dodger.
we'll wrap it up and say good afternoon, good night, or good morning to all the Zcash peeps around the world.
Thanks. See you.
Later.